Well, the question, of course, is how are protesters going to react? Let's get the view of one of them. Khalid Abdalla, you are Egyptian activist and also an actor, I know. Can you give me your initial thoughts about this concession, if you like?
I'm afraid I think it's entirely irrelevant. I think if they were going to make a resignation of conscience, they should have done that months ago. Assam Sharaf appeared here early on in March and said that he would step down if the revolution's demands had not been met. Clearly, the people are way in advance of him. I think it's completely irrelevant. I mean, it's a government that in any case would have been gone in a week's time. I don't think it adds any pressure. I don't think it does a thing. This is about the people and their relationship with SCAF, and a very clear message being sent to them to step down immediately.
What do you think the repercussion, though, could be of this news if it in fact is at the end of the day accepted? Do you think it might actually energize these crowds because they're actually getting concessions from SCAF?
I don't think this crowd cares at all about the government. What is going on here is a battle on the streets in which people are being killed. You've seen, and we can see behind us, the number of bodies that are going back and forth, the numbers which are mounting dead in the morgue, the intimidation that is going on around the morgue and in the streets around us. I don't think it matters to us at all. What matters to us is SCAF. What matters to us is that we are facing the opportunity to build this country from the ground up without the army imposing itself upon us and wanting to be above the constitution, wanting to be above the rule of law, wanting to be above everything. This is an army that has tortured civilians, that has intimidated civilians, that has imprisoned us, that has put 15,000 people on military trial. They have to go. They have no place in the government that comes. And the government that has been sitting there, that has just put forward his resignation, has been complicit in that the whole way through. They should have resigned months ago.
Do you think, though, it could be, if true, a first step, if you like, to getting your main demand met?
These are just cards. These are just cards that are being thrown. You know, they're also resigning to save face. You know, this is not extra leverage of pressure on SCAF. The pressure that is being put on SCAF is being put on the people in the streets right now, the people who are fighting in front of the Ministry of Interior, the people who have died. That is where the pressure is coming from. It has nothing to do with government. The government here has lost all its credibility.
Is there also a worry, Khalid, if the cabinet does resign en masse like this, then there becomes, no buffer, if you like, between the people and the military? Essentially, I mean, we don't really know, we're hypothesizing here what would come in the place of the government. But if there's nothing in the interim, it really means that SCAF is just completely running the show.
No, it doesn't mean that they're running the show, and they never were a buffer, and never have been a buffer, and never will be a buffer. As I said, they were going to be gone in a week's time anyway. There are many alternatives. There's the possibility of a presidential council. There's a possibility of, Inqaz Watani. I can't think of the translation right now. There are many different possibilities but the point is that elections now, or the government now, it's like a skin graft on a paralyzed body. What we're doing here is a heart transplant for a body that owns the future, and I can't say that clearly enough. And with SCAF has no future in it. It has no future in it, so they need to get the message as quickly as possible that they need to go. And on top of that, international governments, who I hold also complicit in everything that is happening here, international governments who have replenished the stocks of tear gas and bullets that are being shot at people right now, the tear gas that is clinging to my lungs. International governments have been complicit in this. They need not to do a rerun of what they did last January, when they took ages in order to condemn the police and army brutality which we are facing. Right now, they need to put all pressure on SCAF to resign, and we own the future. We will build this up. These people out there are beautiful. These people out there are people of conscience. They know what future they want to build, and they know how to build it instinctively. We need to enter that process, and SCAF needs to step aside.
Khalid, you were here during the uprising in January and February, I believe. So how does it compare, the last few days, how do they compare to back then in February?
What we're seeing here right now is what we saw on January the 28th, exactly. Except now we have a higher level of awareness. The battle lines, the ground is completely clear. The lie that was peddled on January the 28th onward that the army was with the people clearly has fallen. The discourses that they have tried to peddle are completely wearing thin. People do not believe them. The army has consistently lied to us, has killed us, has tortured us over the last 9 months, and the people out there know that. So they know what they want, and they're not leaving until they get it.
I do completely understand, the sentiment and the passion you're expressing, but you talked before about a presidential council, other interim solutions, if you like, for the power vacuum that would emerge if the military were to step down. But those interim solutions haven't really got much traction over the last few days. There really hasn't been much talk about how a presidential council, who would be in a presidential council. So, what do you have to say about the alternative? We know what you don't want, but what do you want?
Well, I mean, I don't see why we're supposed to have found a solution in the space of 2 or 3 days. But anyway, other solutions have been put forward consistently over the last 9 months.
So, they haven't come to anything.
Well, they haven't come to anything because we've had SCAF facing down on us, torturing us, and not allowing those things to happen. We have not had room for a proper dialogue to take place, for things properly to move forward. And I need to add another thing, which is that the Muslim Brotherhood also are standing in the way of things. They believe that elections are going to take place in a week's time, and they believe that that is their opportunity to officially enter government, or officially enter the process of, officially enter power. I don't see how in a week's time we're going to have elections. I don't see what Egyptian citizen is going to go and cast his vote at the ballots when his fellow citizens are being killed. We're in an emergency situation right now, and the solutions are there. You put your trust in the people. The people, time and again, have carried us and will carry us forward. And the solutions are there. We have great people. We have the other solution that was suggested months ago of forming a government of, forming a temporary government of technocrats. We have the possibility of alliances between presidential candidates. We have all sorts of things that can happen. What is unacceptable is that people be killed on the streets consistently. We have thousands of wounded all over the country. This is unacceptable. This has to stop. Once that stops, with clear vision and clear sight, which we can see clearly in the square, we will build our future. I have absolutely no doubt in that. And we're not walking blind.
We've had some reaction from the United Nations and from the European Union, but what would you like to see the international community do now?
As I said, they need to condemn and they need to ask SCAF to step down immediately. They need to stop selling arms to the military. They need to stop supporting the military. I don't know when they're going to start doing that, and I don't know when they're going to start waking up, because the message out here is directed at the military and is directed straight at them. For the last 9 months, they have been complicit. David Cameron's first trip down here was to sell arms in the Middle East. William Hague, John Kerry, Hillary Clinton, all the foreign ministers who went round this square and were given tours by the military have been complicit in the violence that we are seeing right here in the square. They need to wake up, and they need to see that if they want to build a future in the Middle East, if they want to be hand in hand with the people who are in this square, who they say have inspired them, then right now they need to come to their support.
But what the SCAF are saying is that the only way to have democracy is through elections. There's no other option to go forward to get this transition that everybody wants. Everybody wants to see a democratic Egypt.
I'm not against elections, and I am very pro-democracy. But the elections that are being proposed to us right now are a sham. They're a sham because we have a military which owns I think it's around 80%. I don't expect there to be elections. I am not going to go and vote while my friends are being killed in the streets. I have friends who've lost their eyes. I have friends who are in prison. I have friends who are in hospital in serious critical condition. I know people who have died. I film people who have died. I'm not going to go and cast my vote in these circumstances, and I'm not going to vote because any vote right now is a recognition of SCAF's authority. It's a recognition of them putting down the roadmap, setting the agenda. They have no right to set the agenda, and they have to go. Once they've done that, then we can talk about having real elections in which we will all participate happily, fully, and build the future which we have created and they have not set down for us.
How much of the country do you think back these protests and back even the idea of not going to vote because of what's going on right now?
I'm not going to put a percentage on it, but I'm going to say very clearly that it is enough people. It is this revolution has always been about critical mass. And also, I know that there are thousands upon thousands and millions of people, Egyptians, sitting in their homes right now who understand very much what the situation is. They have this fear of participating, but I urge them to come, to enter the square, to be part of this, because the more Egyptians are part of this right now, the more we will have a brighter future. This is the history of our country being laid out in front of us. The people in this square are of all ages, all sects, all religions. The whole country is represented here. We need them here with us. We know they're with us in our hearts. But it's a very important distinction to draw between participation and willingness to die and support. And I believe the majority of the country is with us and against SCAF.
Khalid Abdalla, thank you so much for joining us.